So, you want to start a handbell choir or a hand chime choir? You've come to the right place. My name is Donna Kinsey. I'm the pastoral musician for St. Francis de Sales Catholic Parish in Morgantown, West Virginia. Welcome to our music room where we have bells, singers, all kinds of instruments except bagpipes. I draw the line at bagpipes in the small space, but in our church we have a big space and our bells and our hand chimes sound wonderful there, as well as our singers. Come visit us anytime when you're on I-79 and I-68 where they intersect. There we are. Well, what would you need to start a handbell choir? First of all, you'll need instruments. You'll either need chimes, the hand chimes, or you'll need handbells. But where do you get them? Well, one of the best places to find them is in a closet, in a church or in a school in your community, if not in your own church or in your own school, because many times they just get put aside when nobody's there and interested in them for a while, and then when somebody wants to find them again, oh, those big black cases. Okay, so find some bells, find some chimes. If you can't find any that you can borrow, there are companies in western or eastern Pennsylvania. Malmark and Schulmerich are both handbell distributors and producers, and they have borrowing and renting agreements that you can work with them. I'll have the information for you at the end of my video. But the first thing is you got to find your instruments. Then the second thing is you have to find ringers. Well, where do you find ringers? I take anybody God sends through the music room door and I figure out what I can do with them. But you have to figure out what you're going to do. You might want to target your age group. Do you want to have it an elementary group? Do you want it to be high school? Do you want it to be adults only? Do you want it to be intergenerational? When I started ringing back in the 1960s, I was in a group at St. John's Lutheran Church in Katanning, Pennsylvania. I'd been hired as the organist. And 2 months later, I was also the handbell director. So you know how much I knew when I started. But I learned to ring in a group from a 5th grader up to people in their 80s. And there were 2 octaves of bells, which is what a lot of people start with, 2 or 3 octaves. You can go as far as 6 and 7. And they had a group that just got together once a week, and we played all over the place and had a great time, and I was hooked. And so when I moved to Morgantown, trying to find bells, there weren't many in town, but a church shared them with me on Christmas Eve, no less. My husband picked them up from their church door and brought them to our church door and then returned them because they had another service. So you never know where you can find bells, or then how do you get your ringers? You go anywhere you can find people. Could be in your religious ed classes, could be in your classroom classes if you were in a school, could be in a community area that you want to go and visit people. But everywhere you go, talk it up, bring everybody in so they know what you want to do. Oh, and of course, you should have talked to your principal and your pastor first. Well then, what else do you need? You need a ringing space. If you don't have room to put up a table, because you're going to need foam pads, the bells need protection. The lip of the bell is very fragile. And you think, oh, I'll just get the big ones. They will last the longest. They are the most fragile, and they're the most expensive. Our largest bell is about this big, thousands of dollars. You don't want to have that ruined. So you want to be sure you've got a foam pad. For the hand chimes, you only need about 1 inch. I've used carpet squares. I've used sleeping bags for the hand chimes, but you need something padded to protect them. They're made of aluminum, but they are still fragile. If they're banged around too much, they lose their tune. Well, when you've got your table and your space, oh, but you may have to share that space. I did that for 1,000 years. You may have to set up your tables, put up your foam pads, take everything down, and then you have to have a place to store it. So there's lots of space issues that you're going to have to think about. Well, what other equipment do you need besides handbells or hand chimes? We've talked about the foam pads. Music. You are so fortunate. When I started in the 60s, there was not a lot of music that was available for handbells. And so today, it's all organized. Handbell Musicians of America is a fabulous organization. They have a system of organizing music by difficulty, so it's level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, and so on. I would suggest to you that level 1 might be a good place to start. Even with experienced musicians, because even though you know how to read music, that doesn't mean you know how to ring a bell, or that you know how to read the symbols that are on the bell page as to various techniques. I had a med school student from West Virginia University that was in my choir several years ago. He goes, I've been making music all my life and I can't figure out what they want me to do with this dot and this arrow. And we had to laugh, but you had to be able to teach at that moment. So you always will have teachable moments. You'll need, if you don't use music stands, you'll need to have handbell folders or 3-ring binders, and they have a fold so that you're able to put them out. They're called easels, and you're able to use them and keep your music organized. Or I've had handbell choirs that had more narrow tables, and they used music stands, and they just had a notebook folder that they put their music in. But somehow you want to stay organized. I've got gloves on. It protects my hands because, boy, when you have a long rehearsal, you'll have blisters. And it also protects the instruments so that they do not get tarnished. The bronze is a precious instrument. You don't necessarily have to wear gloves with chimes, but if you're already playing bells and then you switch to chimes, you'll just keep your gloves on. You won't take them off. It helps to have a riser. They can be plexiglass or they can be cast iron. I taught in a middle school for several years. You need cast iron for middle school kids. But the plexiglass ones are flexible in that they will fold. The cast iron doesn't fold. You will also, if you want to do some of the special techniques as you go along, you would need mallets. And there are various size mallets for various size bells. And so you would need to know which mallets you needed. And Jeffers Handbell Supply, who has presented and had exhibits at NPM, they have often brought their mallets with them. Both Schulmerich and Malmark have been at NPM, and they bring mallets, so there's help for you there with that, okay? And the other thing you're going to need is pencils with good erasers. Although a lot of people are now starting to use their iPad and scan music in, you have to make sure you follow all the copyright laws for that, but you still would write on those and not need a pencil. But I like pencils and erasers. You do what you would like with that. Now, what skills would you as a director need? Number one, you have to have some leadership skills. You have to know how to work with people. You have to know how to get people excited about a project, and I call it being a salesperson. You have to be able to organize, and eventually you can pass some of that organizational stuff off to other people, keeping the gloves washed, getting the music in the folders, getting things ready to transport if you're going to take your groups on the road. There's so many things that need help, and organizational skills are a big part of that. But people can volunteer to help you with that. Teaching skills, even though you say, I'm not a teacher, if you're going to be a handbell director, not everybody stays every year. And new people move in, and you're going to have to teach them how to ring those, how to do those various skills. So there's ways to help you. Handbell Musicians of America, National Pastoral Musicians, many of the other church organizations and school organizations have handbell workshops as part of their conferences. Right now, there's a lot of things going on virtually, as well as there are videos on YouTube like you would not believe. So it's not like you have to start from scratch. There are all kinds of instructional books, both with a handbell slant or chime slant for schools, as well as for churches. So if you're thinking, I'd like to use these in my school classes, I did. I used them in my classes very much in the middle school I taught in. And there are instructional books of all sorts that you can check out. You also need the ability to hear pitches. When everybody's ringing, can you tell who rang the wrong one? You might not be able to do that right away, but boy, it'll save a lot of rehearsal time if you can figure it out eventually. The biggest thing you're going to need is patience, because you have to be able to plan your rehearsal and keep everybody engaged, but then there's that one ringer that doesn't understand, and everything has to kind of stop till you get them caught up. Your choir will never be any better than the worst ringer that you've got. And so you've got to get their skills up to match the others. And so you have to be creative with the way you work your rehearsal so everybody else doesn't get bored. And you just have to have patience with somebody that might take 3 weeks to learn what everybody else learned in one. Now, where do you find your music? Well, as I said, there's a lot of varieties and there's a lot of companies that have music out there. Sometimes it's what we call original handbell music, that it was written for handbells or for hand chimes only. Then there's music that's been arranged from orchestral pieces or famous organ pieces or flute pieces. Then there's pieces that are arranged on hymn tunes. There's a wide variety and they're all at different levels. But you can also write your own, and this is what I like to do if I'm starting a handbell choir and I've got a rehearsal and I've got some people excited and they're so excited to learn to ring. I don't care if it's 3 of them or if it's 12 of them or 20. I can have them ringing at church on Sunday. So let me just demonstrate what I can do, and again, I'll have this as part of my handout at the end. Let's say that you're singing, if you're not the musician in charge of everything, you need to make sure you're in the same key as the people that are playing the accompaniment on guitars or on keyboard or on organ. But let's say you're doing the song, If You Believe and I Believe. And this is one that I use with my elementary ringers. They're able to learn this and be able to play it on Sunday. And it just starts out simply. And they're going to have to be able to keep a beat. And everybody has an assigned pitch, and so it's easy for them to do. If you believe and I believe, and we together pray. Now that looked like, but that was just me playing instead of one person each having for their instrument. And you can make the chart so that it has the word under the bell that they're to bring on or the chime that they're to ring on. Easy to do. Well, there's another thing you can do with bells. The hymn that's in public domain, Praise to the Lord, easy to do, and it's in 3. And I could do, Praise to the Lord the Almighty. But handbells fade. They are a percussion instrument, so they start to fade as soon as they ring. So we do what we call shake, and so that allows the sound to last longer. Praise to the Lord the Almighty, the King of creation. And that allows the sound to grow. And if you have more than one octave, I put all my octaves together and it gives a big sound. And so it gives an interesting sound too, and gives you a different technique that you can learn to do. I learned to do a shake from a group of nuns many years ago in Cleveland, and they were the ones that said, only on special days in their chapel were they allowed to shake because it's such a joyful sound. Well, what do you do when you don't know what to do? You find people that can help you. This video should be of some help to you. You can invite other bell choirs to come in and present at your church, at your school assemblies. Other denominations are very welcome to come to play. They're excited to come and play at a Catholic church because you may not have another Catholic church nearby that has handbells. And they'll come and play maybe solo pieces or maybe play on your hymns. And you can talk to those directors. You can talk to other ringers. That's how you learn a lot of stuff about how to organize a bell choir because they all have their opinions on how things should be done. And you can always contact me. You can email me or text me. I've got my information there, or call me. There are handbell workshops all over the country that right now many of them are being canceled, but the Handbell Musicians of America has divided the United States up into various sections, and each of those areas has festivals, workshops, clinics. They have, each state has their own chair, and they will be glad to help you if you contact them, if you just go online and find that. And I'll have the links down here at the bottom. I would encourage you to try it. And we were to have a bell festival at the Louisville NPM convention, and people come in and watch our rehearsals. That's a good way to learn, is to come in and watch a rehearsal, but the best way is ring yourself. Come in and learn how to ring. Glad to have you in the music room at St. Francis anytime. Thanks so much for being with me today, and if I can help you at all, let me know. Thanks.